about the top 5 quarterbacks that are true freshmen. But I'm not going to rank them. See, I teased that, but I'm not going to rank them. I'm going to rank them in terms of not their ability, but how likely they are to play in 2023, because I put this out on the Twitters. Please respond to it. I don't care that it's after the show has aired. I still would like to hear what you have to say here and why. But which one of these 5 quarterbacks that are all elite have an opportunity to make their first start in 2023, and which one is most likely? So we're going to go from 5 to 1, starting with the guy that I believe is least likely to make a start in 2023 to the guy I think is most likely to make a start in 2023. That is a true freshman quarterback. Got all of that? All right. So at number 5, let's go to USC. Go ahead, talk about Malachi Nelson. Talk about a guy that was Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of California. And frankly, a guy that Lincoln Riley had been recruiting for the better part of 3 years. Like, he was going to Oklahoma until Riley took that job at SC, and he did what most recruits do. He follows the coach that was recruiting him, not the school that the coach was coaching at, right? I don't think that makes him any different than most others. I always kind of feel kind of weird when adults catch feelings about why a 17-year-old child decided to play for a person he knows rather than the non-personification of an actual building. Doesn't really matter to me. They're going to take your money anyway. You're going to spend 4 or 5 years there. Sometimes you'll like it, sometimes you won't, and it's going to get you to the next thing. That said, I think really we're talking about Miller Moss and what he has to say about USC, because the reason I think Malachi Nelson is 5th on this list is, 1, Caleb Williams is the reigning Heisman winner. Duh. You're going to play him as much as you possibly can, especially in a draft-eligible year where, quiet as it's kept, there's no reason for Lincoln Riley not to wear him out. He won't, but I'm just saying, right? You got to let him go after this year. You know that. We know that. Just play the game the way the game is supposed to be played. Then Miller Moss, who came in the 2021 cycle, stayed after Jackson Dart had gone, stayed after Caleb Williams transferred in, stayed, and is backup at SC, seems to really like being backup at SC. It's about, can he beat out Malachi Nelson for that job? I think years in the system is going to have something to say about that, but Lincoln Riley has always gone with the most talented quarterback on the depth chart and said, I'll just build the offense around what he can do or what he knows. I think that's going to be the same here. So Miller might be Joey Hazel, which is not a bad thing. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I think Malachi Nelson is going to sit this year, and then he'll get an opportunity to play. Unless Caleb gets injured, and which is always on the table for anybody, but for a guy who makes his living scrambling around and making other people look silly, a bad hammy can take him out, because it has. So who do you go with? Probably Miller. But if Miller throws 2 picks in, 2 series, Malachi Nelson, you're up, and maybe you can Wally Pipp a job, right? I know that I'm pushing a narrative there, but this is really just me laying out all the possibilities for you as to why I think it's number 5. So number 4 on the list for me is Oklahoma quarterback Jackson Arnold, National Gatorade Player of the Year, Jackson Arnold, right? Now, this is a guy that Oklahoma wasn't always sure they were going to get, especially as some other programs came on strong, notably producer Tyler's Notre Dame. Were able to fend him off, took some Notre Dame property out of the portal. Very excited about that as well. Anytime I can take something from Notre Dame, I'm gonna, because, well, I remember 2012. That was supposed to be us in that national championship game, but Manti Te'o decided, no, sir, on the same night that James Harden was traded to Houston. Just a horrible night in 2012 for you, mans. Just a bad. I was in the press box for that game too. Just a bad day. But Jackson Arnold's also the first National Gatorade Player of the Year at Oklahoma since Kyler Murray. And you know how that went with Kyler Murray. Heisman, number 1 overall pick, played in the playoff. Actually played really well, 300-yard passing game and 100-yard rushing, but also looked like he had just been destroyed because he had Quentin Williams was just wrecking that offensive line. But I think of Jackson Arnold in this way. The comp is Baker Mayfield if he was a can't-miss prospect. Think about that for a second. If everybody knew who Baker Mayfield was going to be when he got to college, that's who Jackson Arnold is. He has that sort of confidence, right? He's not an arrogant, but, you get what I'm saying here. He has that ability to put the ball wherever he wants it to go, and people believe they're going to win because he's their quarterback. That counts for a lot. Now, the problem for him is Dylan Gabriel is not just the incumbent. He's another one of these guys that has years of playing college football underneath his belt. And you would have to, again, not unlike others, say Devin Brown and Kyle McCord at Ohio State, demonstrate that the floor for you is the same as it would be for Dylan Gabriel. And that's just hard, man. You don't have any body of work in this sport. Now, Brent Venables has been nothing but complimentary. Like, he talks endlessly about that dude's work ethic and how he's always trying to get better. And that's the grind that Venables expects. Like, he's one of these guys that believes football is hard, and doing things the right way is usually doing things the hard way. If that's what it is, yeah, you're going to sit this year. You're going to watch Dylan Gabriel run the offense. You're going to learn everything you can from Jeff Levy. And then 2024, going to the SEC, good luck with that, because I'd be shocked to find out that Alabama, Georgia, Texas A&M are not on your schedule. And that's if you avoid an Arkansas, because or LSU. I just think that the SEC is going to try to stick it to Texas and Oklahoma just to prove a point. Not unlike the Big 12 is sticking it to Oklahoma and Texas to prove a point. Bring it on ourselves, but that's what it is. Number 3 on the list. Let's go back to Texas. Texas quarterback Arch Manning. All right, you're going to yell at me for this, but I don't care, because I'm looking at it from a tool standpoint and not from an attitude standpoint. But what if Joe Burrow went to Texas? I know that many of you do not believe in Arch Manning because he played at Newman. Doesn't matter to you that Eli played at Newman, Peyton played at Newman, Odell Beckham Jr. played at Newman. It matters to you that Arch Manning didn't play the best competition in Louisiana, even though Louisiana puts out more NFL players per capita than any other state in this union. Okay. Also, wasn't that long ago that a guy like, say, Arch Manning ended up at LSU, but that wasn't true of his uncles. Certainly not true of him. He went to the place where he always wanted to play quarterback. By now, you've heard that story. Somehow, that dude decided early on as a child, he wanted to be quarterback at the University of Texas. And Steve Sarkisian's able to capitalize on that. So if you have Joe Burrow kind of skills where you can move around, you can make things happen, you can hit people when they're open, and everybody believes you're going to win, what's stopping him? Well, frankly, Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers is still one of the best prospects in the sport since we've had recruiting rankings. And if he grows up in 2023 in the way that we expect him to, Arch is not going to get that job. But if Quinn Ewers got hurt, we're talking about Malik Murphy and Charles Wright. Now, not to shade you Charles Wright truthers, but it ain't going to be him. It ain't going to be him. It's going to be some version of Malik Murphy who is still really tooly. Like, I really want something to pop for him. It might have to be in a transfer situation, but I've seen that dude throw the football and I've seen that dude move around. And frankly, I just want to see him play. But Arch Manning is Arch Manning, and you can only have one quarterback at a time. So something would have to happen. Quinn Ewers would have to combust for us to see Arch Manning in 2023, but not unlike Jackson Arnold, he's going to run into 2024, your starting quarterback. Yikes. Everybody's going to be happy to see him. That's the best I could say about Texas. Oh, man, I'm so not looking forward to this move for Oklahoma and Texas, the SEC. It has the potential to just ruin my 40s. And I've been looking forward to my 40s for some time. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is winning time. 50 is the new 40. I'm getting there. Like, homeowner, all that stuff out the window. Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC. Okay, number 2 on this list for me. Another SEC quarterback. See what I did there? Tennessee quarterback Nico Iamaleava. Nico Iamaleava. We're going to do this. We're doing this because I am not backing down from pronouncing somebody's name correctly. I understand that Gus Johnson and I have once, had the same affliction, but we get it because we keep doing it. All right. It is not disrespect. It is the utmost respect. I'm going to make myself silly until I say this correctly because you're owed. Your parents are owed, frankly, right? I had DJ Uiagalelei playing on my phone from Big Dave for the better part of a year before that dude got to Clemson, because I'm not going to be the dude that's just saying, DJU. This is the profession. You talk for a living. If you talk for a living, you owe people a name pronunciation. Sometimes they're hard to hunt down. Sometimes they're hard to find. But once you get them, we're going to do things like this. Iamaleava. Nico Iamaleava. See? Right? Just got to work at it. Just like everything else. You need reps. You need time. You need to get in the mirror and say it over and over again. Iamaleava. Iamaleava. See? You can tell I've been doing that in the mirror. Nico is 6'6" and an outstanding volleyball player, which for me means a lot. But then again, I used to date a volleyball player, women's volleyball player, to be clear about it. But you get my point here. I would watch more volleyball than was probably necessary for a man who loves college football as much as I do. And I've seen that dude as an outside hitter. It's a thing to behold. But when I see him work as a quarterback, his mobility, his ability to escape pressure, the strikes he can throw, the arm angle he has. What if Vince Young went to Tennessee? Yeah, I said it. 6'5", 230, runs away from people, can make anything happen with his legs and with his arm, put the offense in his hands and let him cook. That is Nico Iamaleava. Okay. Like that's who that guy can be. Now he's up against a guy in Joe Milton, who is also just as physically talented. My God, I love watching Joe Milton play football. And he could throw a football like Nico over them mountains. And again, you have to prove that the ceiling for you is as high as Joe Milton and the floor for you is as high as Joe Milton. And I just don't see that happening. Joe Milton didn't choose to return after beating Clemson in the Orange Bowl because he was going to give up his job to a true freshman, no matter how good that true freshman is. And frankly, Josh Heupel likes having them both. And so does quarterback coach Joey Hazel. Joey Hazel was a guy that we used to make fun of being on the depth chart at Oklahoma, and he's turned into quite the capable coach because that's usually how that thing goes, right? A guy that might not have had it as a quarterback, but was good enough to be a college football quarterback at a Division I power, ends up being an outstanding quarterback's coach. You saw what he was able to help do with Hendon Hooker. You see what he can do with a guy like Joe Milton. And frankly, I'm excited because Hazel's already told Nico, don't be timid. Be out here going full blast. If you make mistakes, make them big. But I want you to make them at full speed. I love hearing that from a coach because that means that I am unafraid of trying to help you control this prodigious power. I only want you to use it. And that's what people mean when they say be yourself. Like, it's usually bad advice because what they mean is some version of yourself that you don't really like. But like, for instance, on this show, I'm passionate. I'm emotional. Sometimes it can be unwieldy, but you'd rather have it than I don't. That's what Nico has in talent. So if you let him spread his wings and fly, he's probably going to learn quicker how to navigate them canyons and drop that bomb on that dot in that mountain that Tom Cruise is flying through at a quicker rate than, say, if you just said out there, hey, man, don't turn the ball over. It's not what a quarterback wants to hear because they don't want to turn the ball over. Tell them if you see the go route, throw it, dog. Do the Jalen Hurts and throw it up to A.J. Brown. My God, a pass he would not have made at Oklahoma. Everybody grows up. Everybody matures. Shout out to you, Gaston Moore truthers who somehow think that the transfer from Central Florida is going to compete in this competition. I wish you well. Okay. Number one on the list, UCLA quarterback Dante Moore. All right. I'm very intrigued by Dante Moore. And the reason I am is because on this list, I think he is the guy who has the best opportunity to not just start in 2023, but to start the season opener. I got this from editor Sean Merriman, and we'll walk it out, but like, let me know what you think. Last year, only one true freshman started the season at quarterback. He played at UConn. What if Dante Moore is that guy at UCLA? Now, Colin Schlee is transferring in from Kent State. Ethan Garbers is there. They're going to have a full quarterback room, right? Like, it's going to be standing room only, but everybody understands the talent that Dante has. And to underscore this, the All-America Bowl is a bowl for the best prospects in the country. Blue chips and above, 4 stars and 5 stars. Those are the guys that get to play in that game. Not only did Dante Moore play in that game, he was 14 of 19 for 156 yards and 4 TDs in that game. And the reason I put stock into that game is it is the only all-star game that I know about where kids actually want to win. I watched the NBA All-Star game, or I should say I watched the layup line. I'm not up for that. You know, like I need you to make this mean something to me. And nice thing about teenagers is it always means something to them. They're always playing for something. They're playing for a woman in the stands. They're playing for some coaches on the sideline, or they're playing because this dude says something funky sideways about his mama. Either way, they want it. And Dante showed up wanting it. And there's nothing to sneeze at there. Now, I think the comp is kind of hard here, but you'll get my drift on it. Russ Wilson with more wiggle, right? Taller than Russ, certainly. Slender than Russ, certainly. But also can move around, make things happen. He's accurate with the football and does not mind throwing the ball deep downfield. Shout out to Detroit's Martin Luther King Jr. High School, where he came out of. They got King across the chest and everything. I really love those uniforms. He also had underscored when he was putting together his list that Chip Kelly and UCLA were on top of it because his relationship with Chip Kelly was so great. I don't think Chip Kelly is building a relationship with a guy like Dante Moore to that effect if he doesn't think that he can be another Dorian Thompson-Robinson for him and start for 5 years. It won't be 5 years because that's COVID years coming and going, but 4 years straight. And what happens if your best quarterback prospect at UCLA since Josh Rosen is Dante Moore, and you're going into the Big Ten in just a year's time? You're set up to win, man. That's awesome. I also think it's important that Cam Newton was also a guy that he was able to pull on for wisdom, and I love that. Cam Newton, who went to Auburn, said, you know what the most important thing for you is? National exposure. Sounds like a guy that played on a broadcast television network most of his 2010 season where he led Auburn to a national championship. Now, I still have to fight people about this, but not only the best college football player I believe there has really ever been, but also an MVP and a guy that played in the Super Bowl. Like, people still slept on what Cam Newton has accomplished and who he is. Dante Moore said, cool, you said national exposure. Now, why didn't he go to, say, Oregon? Because, well, Kenny Dillingham went to Arizona State. It was really that simple. I believe him. I take him at his word on that. I don't see any reason to fight him. And frankly, I would much rather have a relationship with the head coach than with the coordinator, because, you know, guess who gets to make the ultimate call? Yeah, the head coach. And it happens that Chip Kelly is also calling the plays. Thank you for watching the #1 college football show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.